Good morning. The June 18th, 2024 meeting of the Charter Authorizing Panel is called to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Department of Education and ask that you please silence all of your electronic devices. The goal is to facilitate a fair and responsible hearing, so that therefore I ask that each person speak into the microphone clearly and state your title and name. I ask that you continue to speak clearly into the microphone throughout your presentation for the benefit of this panel, the audience, and the viewing audience. I think we're getting a little feedback. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and a transcript of the meeting will be posted on the DESE website. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, panel members. We do have a consent agenda item before us today. If there are no questions or objections, I'll accept a motion to pass the consent agenda item.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin and a second by Dr. Wright McMurray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Okay, Mr. Reynolds, would you come forward to review the procedures for us?
Good morning. Stephen Reynolds, staff attorney for the department.
Good morning.
Dr. Sutherland, you'll want to swear in all the parties except for attorneys that will be giving testimony. The applicants will then have 20 minutes to present their applications of their amendment requests. To my knowledge, there's no opposition for any of the charters on the agenda, so after their presentations, you all can move into questions. All parties, please state your name before you speak, even if you talk before, so we can have a clear record. Any community members or community partners that are here to speak on behalf of the applicant will need to speak during the 20 minutes. Any elected officials that are here can speak before the hearing, during the 20 minutes, or at the conclusion of all the testimony. That's up to the official and the applicant, how they want to move forward. Following the presentations, we'll go through legal concerns and waivers, if any, and you guys can address any remaining concerns outside of legal.
Thank you very much. Ms. Summons?
Good morning. Dory Summons, Office of Public Charter Schools. The first school on the agenda is Fountain Lake Middle School Cobra Digital Prep Academy. They are rescinding their charter as of June 30th, 2024, and all waivers associated with the charter will be rescinded at that time.
Is anyone here from the charter to speak, or? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we have a rescission of a charter. I think we're still getting some feedback. We'll pause for just a minute. Testing? Good, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So it's been moved by Mr. Scott and seconded by Dr. Wright McMurray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. We'll fill out our voting sheets and we'll be back with you in just a second. right, we'll start with Dr. Moore.
I approve the request to rescind the Fountain Lake Middle School Cobra Digital Prep Academy charter and all associated waivers.
Okay. Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, I voted in favor of this request to rescind the charter as of June 30, 2024.
Mr. Scott?
I voted for the decision of Fountain Lake Middle School Cobra Digital Prep Academy because of respect of their decision to identify the readiness of their team to move forward in a meaningful way for the benefit of the students and community they serve.
All right, and Dr. Wright McMurray?
I voted for, I support Fountain waivers.
And then I voted for the motion to rescind the Fountain Lake Middle School charter. So thank you very much. Ms. Summons?
The next school on the agenda is Fort Smith Virtual Academy. Fort Smith Virtual Academy is requesting to change the current grade level served from grades K-12 to grades 6 through 12, and we have Ms. Samantha Hall here from the district.
All right, thank you very much.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Samantha Hall from Fort Smith Virtual Academy.
And
Oh, that's
can
right.
we raise
Swear
our right
in.
hand? So all those that are going to speak on behalf of the
Yeah.
charter, if you'll raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You may begin.
Okay. I don't have a formal presentation. I'm really just here to answer questions and just to reiterate that we are wanting to move forward with 612, but our K-5 enrollment is so small that we're not effectively utilizing our resources, specifically our teachers, where it's very intensive to use 3 teachers for such a small number of students.
Do I have any questions? Mr. Scott?
Yes, just of interest is, I understand the decision to focus on those meaningful grades from an enrollment perspective. Could you, the journey relative to the K through 5, could you share with us any data that you have in regards to outreach to parents and their decisions, any kind of evals that were associated with that decision?
I don't have anything specific with me. We worked very closely with our parents in that group. The enrollment declined each year, and honestly, we were only going to have 14 students in grades K-5 next year, and over half of those were from 3 families with multiple students.
Okay. In many cases, it's the parents' role to participate.
Mhm.
Just wondering your
Yes.
findings in that regards.
Yes, and this, what's your specific question on that?
In regards to K through 5,
Mhm.
at the end of the day,
Yes.
as you move to 6 to 12, you're still going to have in a virtual environment
Oh, yes.
to have parents that are uniquely involved.
Oh, definitely. And these were great parents that were very involved in our K-5 program, and there's a couple of 4th graders that they're already planning to bring them back when they get to 6th grade in 2 years, so.
Okay. And the last was just lessons learned for those that are aspiring to do virtual in the elementary ranks, and lessons learned.
It is very labor intensive in that with the youngest kids, to teach them basic reading, writing, math skills, interpersonal skills as well. We brought them on campus occasionally, and just learning those things of how to conduct themselves in a public space, things like that. It requires a lot of small group attention. So the small environment was good. It just got too small. But we can't do it with less teachers. We could, but we looked at that, like having 1 teacher for K-6, but we couldn't do that with fidelity because we need the youngest kids to have multiple times throughout the day. They need that interactions with the teachers, and they need the support at home. It is just it's a true partnership, and it's a very intensive partnership.
Mr. Baldwin?
So kind of a similar question coming from the other end. What is your enrollment in the 6 through 12?
Last year it was, the 6 through 12 part was about 110 or so, because we had 137 and I believe I guess it was closer to 117, because we had about 20 kids K-5 that was gonna drop down to 14 this year. And so we are anticipating, we graduated 12 seniors, all of our seniors did graduate, so that was a definite positive that we had 100% graduation of our students that finished the year with us, so.
When you look at the future of your 6 through 12 classes, how do kids come into the virtual setting? I mean, a lot of times in traditional, you feed up from the bottom grades, so that doesn't happen here.
Correct. What we have found, a lot of these kids did continue with us, but also that transition from elementary to middle school, and from the middle school to high school, those are the two places we see the most student enrollment, new student enrollment with the virtual instead of just continuing students. As either right before that happens in anticipation or in the first couple of weeks of the school year when they make that transition and for whatever reason, overwhelming or large environment or whatever is different, but they're going from very small neighborhood middle schools, or not very small, but small. We have 18 neighborhood middle schools or elementaries to 4 traditional middle schools. So you're feeding a lot of kids into it, and then same thing as they go from the 4 middle schools to the high school situation.
Okay. What is the authorized number of students in your 6 through 12?
What is
Authorized number of students, the maximum you could?
our whole enrollment was set to be 500. I believe we had it set at 35 in a class. Well, that was teacher load. Overall was 500, and if a maximum teacher load was around 35, except in a per class period.
Okay. So is your goal to get, now that you're going to focus on that grade level, is your goal to get closer to the 500?
Yes, that is our goal, is to focus on that. Maybe closer to about 400 probably, even without the elementary, because that was including having an elementary component to that,
Okay.
which would not be as large as our 612 component from the beginning. It wasn't a true equitable half and half, but.
Okay. One last question. The financial impact of this, the financial budgeting, have you all done that? Is it a positive effect?
Yes, it's definite, because we have 3 teachers with such a small number of students. Those teachers will all return back to our traditional classrooms within the district. And with 612, we will be able to pare down a smaller staff, and the majority of our students are in 612. So we won't be losing very much funding compared to the amount that we'll save in teacher salaries alone.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Moore?
Sure, thanks for being here today. I have a question that's actually not related to why you're here.
Okay.
But since you're here, I'm just curious, as your virtual academy continues and focuses on your secondary students primarily, what are you doing to ensure those students have opportunities for concurrent credit in career and technical education?
Okay, great question, because that is something that we've really looked at as an area of need this past year. This was our first year with the high school, so that was a big, huge chunk to bite off. But that is one of the first things we found. So we partner with Virtual Arkansas for our curriculum, and they offer concurrent through Arkansas Tech. So we have had those meetings also with UAFS, that there's no conflict with us partnering with the Virtual Arkansas and their Arkansas Tech partnership, since it is set up for full virtual. And our partnership with UAFS in Fort Smith is typically an on-site partnership where the professors either come to campus or we use teachers. So we've got that settled. Career Technical, this Dr. Udodge, I actually work with him. He is our director of our Career and Technical, and that is another thing that one of our big discussions on the way down here is talking about being able to now, we have CTE as part of our charter, so we're already doing that in terms of 6, 7, 8, and now that we're adding on the 9, 10, lead up to some programs at Peak, even though they're full virtual for students, they might not want to go on site at Northside or Southside. That doesn't mean that they would not want to be part of either the WOTC program or the Peak programs, the big difference being whether they're through the university or through Fort Smith schools. But those are some of the things we're looking for in their student success plans, as well as being able to offer those programs.
All right, thanks so much.
And then I just have one question about, in terms of the reasons, I mean, you listed some of the reasons that they end up coming over at 6th grade or even after. Do you have hard data yet to support that, like a survey or anything that would support? I'm just thinking in terms of identifying those students to make sure that they are getting the best possible options.
You know, I honestly don't. I have surveys in terms of, like from the program itself, but not as of why they made the transition. So that is something we would need to start looking at, because we have not, and we also do get students throughout the year for other reasons, medical exceptions being a
Right.
huge one.
But something to think about, because I
Yes.
think that could help you identify who might benefit best from your program. So
Yes,
yeah.
I agree. That's a
All right.
great idea.
Mhm. Any other questions? All right.
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
Just,
Sure.
just real quick, we appreciate the decision relative to fiduciary, looking at the numbers. There's still a responsibility when it comes to grades, going all the way through graduation, to handle community service learning,
Yes.
graduation, and also student success plans.
Yes.
Help us understand your plan going forward to address those in a virtual environment.
We actually have a teacher, in addition to our core, some of our teachers have gotten cross-certified or are in the process of doing that. I have a teacher that does our Keystone class, which is required for graduation. That's required for our 8th graders, and that is during the course of that class, they develop their student success plan. So she's working directly with them, and she is also going to be the person that is in charge of the community service learning, and that helps work with those students both in providing opportunities and tracking their hours over the next 4 years. And she's also working on getting the certification to do the an internship class as well, so that we can offer internships. We're just starting to explore that. She's also my science teacher who does both biological and physical science. So she was a Portsmouth Teacher of the Year in the past. She's an amazing, all of my staff is phenomenal, I will say that, but she is definitely focused and willing to do that, and it's very helpful for me that she is so focused on that. And she's already got the community service learning. We've already gotten some stuff started, some things that they've given kids opportunities to volunteer for just within the schools.
Appreciate that. It's definitely a direct linkage between a plan, success plan, and also developing your community partners.
Yes.
It'd be ideal if indeed the community service learning opportunities really aligned with their career aspirations, and you have partners to be able to address that.
Yes, that's a great idea too. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that part.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'll accept a motion.
I move approval.
A
second.
I have a motion from Dr. Wright McMurray and a second from Dr. Moore. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. We will take just a few minutes to fill out our voting sheets, and we'll get right back to you.
Thank you.
We will start with Dr. Wright McMurray.
I voted for. I support Fort Smith's virtual request to amend their charter to change grade levels served from K-12 to 6-12.
Mr. Scott?
I voted for the amendment request of Fort Smith Virtual because of their careful consideration of fiduciary responsibility and focus on continued success for the students and engagement with both families and the community partners.
Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, I support the request to change the grade levels from K-12 to 6-12. This change allows the school to focus on a more traditional student base for virtual academies and will improve the financial position of the school.
Dr. Moore?
I support the request of Fort Smith Virtual Academy to change the current grade levels served from grade K-12 to grade 6-12. I encourage the charter to take this opportunity to focus on the narrow scope of grade level to deepen student core learning and increase access to and participation in CTE and early post-secondary credit.
And then I voted for the motion to change the grade level of Fort Smith Virtual Academy to 6-12. The charter has identified areas in which it can better serve students and focus its efforts on its mission. I look forward to hearing about the data as it relates to reasons for attendance and its application to the identification of students that would best benefit from the charter's model. So congratulations. All right, Ms. Summons? Okay, yeah.
Okay, next we'll have Pinecrest Academy Fayetteville. They're requesting to defer the school start date to August 2025, and Ms. Lima is online.
Right, thank you. Ms. Lima? Ms. Lima, are you there? Okay, I think we're having some audio issues. Ms. Lima, we're going to get with you in just a second.
Hello?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
is that coming through your computer or? Okay.
Hi?
We can hear you. I think maybe the volume is just a little bit low, so they're going to adjust that real quick.
Okay, no problem.
Can you try now for us, please?
Yes, can you hear
Oh,
me?
perfect.
Great, thank you so much. My name is Adri Lima. I'm representing Pinecrest Academy and actually Civica as well this morning on behalf of Mr. Alvarez. Yes, Pinecrest Academy of Arkansas is requesting a one-year
Miss Lima,
deferral.
sorry to
Yes?
pause you, but we need to swear you in first. Sorry. So if you'll raise your right hand,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may begin.
Okay. My name is Adri Lima, and I'm representing Pinecrest Academy this morning. Pinecrest Academy is, in fact, requesting a deferral to open the school for the 2025 school year. And partners have not been able to identify a suitable facility. And obviously, we know facilities are very important, and usually this is the tougher piece. Searches have been far and wide, and while there were some options on the table, just timeline-wise, we do want to be sure that we give the community enough time to hear about the school, that we identify the right site, and so with that, we are requesting to be able to open in 2025.
All right. Dr. Murray, do you have any questions?
I guess just the one question that I have. Still echoing. So do you feel confident that, given the extension, you'll be able to find 2 locations for opening your schools? Sorry, I'm a little distracted with the echo.
So if we're, sorry, yes, we're referring to Civica and Pinecrest. Yeah, I would say yes. You know, obviously, it has been difficult to identify one, but we feel that we've made some progress in the last months. And really what happened is that it came down to timing. And you never really want to just start the process over the summer. We know families, at least traditionally from the networks that we're discussing, these families are looking into schools, you know, October, November, December, January of the year prior to school opening. And so, yes, we feel that over, you know, the summer and the fall, we can identify a sites. Obviously, we cannot confirm, right, that we will find 2 sites that are perfect for these schools, but that is absolutely the intent.
And just from my knowledge, just ask generally, so once the site is identified, do they just move forward with that? Or do we get a chance to get any feedback on where they're selecting, or how would that work?
I think that's up to the CAP to decide. So if the motion were made that we wanted to review the site prior to them actually being able to open in 2025, we could make such a motion.
How is that normally handled?
I mean, it would just be part of the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay.
I would think that there are quality decisions in regards to a facility or location. There are numbers, financials that you have to take a look at, ensure that there is enough percentage towards student learning that goes on. But you won't know that until you have a fully signed agreement / facility utilization agreement.
So do you have any questions, Mr. Scott, or just?
Beyond that, I believe what I heard, and forgive me, it was kind of difficult to understand, but I believe what I heard was that there's still a question about what that site would look like. So there's still data for us to assess.
Yes. Mr. Baldwin?
So I sympathize with you on trying to find a site. That's always hard, and especially up in Northwest Arkansas, there's a lot of activity up there. So I guess my question would be to ask who all is involved in the site selection process. Do you have real estate professionals? Are they contracted, or are they folks that are part of the school, maybe school board members? Just walk us through folks that are helping you with this decision, and then also maybe tell us when you begin to become concerned about hitting the date this year. I'd be interested in knowing how long of a time frame that's been.
Since we received, actually, before, I would say, since we received the approval for the applications, the boards engaged, well, and with the help of the ESP, we have real estate professionals within our organization, and also we're reaching out to brokers, local brokers in those areas to visit sites. Many sites were visited. Trips were taken over there to see facilities on various occasions. And so it's a combination of local developers and real estate brokers in combination with the members from the governing board, or really the CMO of Civica and Pinecrest, who has overseen the expansion of student networks, and representatives from the local board. And so as far as when did we begin to be concerned, I mean, you know, ideally you identify a site a year out. So I wouldn't, you know, I'd say by the time that we cut to around January, February, March, it's a little tight. And so I would say around that time, but then, you know, we kind of kept holding out hope, and other facilities kept kind of coming up. But then the concern there is timing with regard to families, holding those community meetings, getting that interest, and then being able to enroll, you know, the numbers that we're targeting. So I don't know if that helps answer your question a little bit.
It did, thank you. And I would just say that it's important to have the right professional help, and up there's, you know, a lot of folks that you shouldn't use, and there are some really good ones. So I would encourage you to make sure that you got the right team in place.
Dr. Moore?
I'm sorry if you've already addressed this. The sound is a little difficult. What about students who were planning to attend your facility, your charter? Have you helped accommodate them, since they may have missed out on registering in time for some others that had a limited access, and that was already taken? Like, what have you done to serve any students who may have planned on attending this fall?
Because I'm getting a bit of an echo.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I was asking if she can repeat the question, because there's a lot of feedback and I couldn't understand.
Sure. For students who had planned to attend your charter this fall, maybe if I say it slower, it helps. I'm like,
I guess so.
Have you helped them find other opportunities, because it may have been too late for them to make the cut for some of the charters that have limited seats?
No, I can assure you that we did not enroll, and we would never enroll students in a school without having a facility identified. So we did not enroll any students. The work that was done with regard to ads and getting interest was solely based on interest, and not at all based on submitting an application for a school. Once we have a facility identified, at that point is when the engagement and marketing would happen in order to enroll students. So we did not have any students enrolled for a school, obviously, that we did not have a site for.
Okay, and I didn't think you had them enrolled necessarily. I just didn't know if people were. Never mind. It's good.
There are no families displaced, if that helps. We have an interest list that we had from when we ran some ads, but again, those were halted until we knew really where we were going to put these sites. And so we do not have any families that thought that they were going to enroll into these schools. That helps.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to just piggyback on that, because I think a portion of what you're sharing is a part of a revised marketing and recruitment plan of sorts. You target a particular date, and there's still activity. I understand the challenge relative to identify facility and location and things of that nature. But if you could step us through what your plans are from a marketing and recruitment standpoint, given that your request is a year out, that would be helpful.
And just to add on to that, if you could give us kind of a full scope of a timeline of what you're looking at, because I think you addressed it briefly, but I couldn't quite hear it just because our sound was off. So if you could address your timeline and then what your marketing and recruitment plan is.
Sure. The facility identification is ongoing. So once the facility were to be identified, or actually prior, what we have right now for both schools, and I'm sorry that I'm speaking to both items, but what we have right now is sort of a landing page. The idea is by the end of this year to build out the full website for each school. And then once those websites are built out, you run digital ads, Google responsive ads, social media ads. Ideally, if the facility is identified, we place site signs immediately and begin holding parent interest meetings at the site. If the site is not suitable, if it's not ready, if we're not able to host, if we don't have a CO or TCO, we would host events off-site somewhere nearby. We'd have renderings of the facility. We typically, with both of these networks, we look into what sort of festivals or community events are being held in the surrounding area, sponsor a table or reach out and see how we can take part in those. We reach out to local churches, museums, community centers, the nearby preschools, I guess, when we would be enrolling in kindergarten, we would look at those daycares and preschools and see if they would allow us to host meetings for their families to advise them that there's a new school coming to their area. And so all of this would start happening. The typical timeline is that it begins happening around October, November of the year prior to the school opening, up until and registration would begin, all depending on how we feel about the site, but really around January and February, where you'd have those initial and secondary registration times and lotteries.
Other questions? Well, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
May I ask a question of the panel?
Sure.
So I'm thinking that in order to open up in July or to be ready to go in 25, it'd be good to have a building right now or have a contract on a building. And I guess my personal thought would be to ask Pinecrest to come back with a specific plan and talk to us about who's, specifically the names of who's involved, where they are, give a little bit more detail. We don't really have anything to look at other than just a conversation that's very hard to hear. And I don't want to burden the school, but I think since one deadline has been missed, I think another one can be missed too, real easily, because the time will go fast. And that's maybe my personal opinion, but how do you guys think about that?
No, I can support that. That was, I guess, with my first question is kind of where I was trying to get my thoughts fleshed out on, because the time frame of having to identify a location and then have enough time to appropriately share that information with the public and get students enrolled, it gets pretty tight. And so that's why I did ask the initial question, do we feel confident that just giving another year is going to provide adequate time, because we are now basically in July. So I would appreciate an opportunity to see a revised timeline.
And do you have a time frame that you would think you would want them to return if there were a motion made in that vein? What are we thinking about?
If we say, if we do nothing, they're on point to start this year, correct? Or
Well,
not?
no. What
Yes,
I think,
push it out to 25.
but I'm saying the motion could be to push it out to 25 with the stipulation that there is a report back to us at a certain date. And if we did something of that nature, then that would enable us to then check on progress to see where we are, to make sure that we'll meet that 25 deadline.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, and maybe I would call the plan, a fairly comprehensive plan of, that ties in marketing outreach and the site selection and plans once you get the site. How long will it take to hire contractors? Because I know there's delays up there. There's just massive delays because everybody's so busy. So I think some type of formal document in writing that we can look at, and maybe even an in-person presentation so we can have a conversation.
I certainly agree, and I would include in that request to understand as they have their community and public meetings, what kind of support they have from families that are interested.
Dr. Moore, did you have anything you wanted to
No,
add?
I agree, and just curious what we think the best time frame would be.
Mhm.
I would assume that they would need a few months, so sometime in the fall, but before
Yeah.
December. I don't know what our meeting schedule is like in October, November.
And so we have new charters and renewals coming up at the beginning of the fall. If we were to say, what do we think, October? Or does that sound feasible? Okay.
Is that enough time for Pinecrest?
Is that enough time for you all to have a plan in place?
It's fine, and we're happy to provide you with any documentation and updated timeline between now and then. And then we can, if you'd like us to come back to the panel in October, that sounds fine. And just to confirm, is the motion then today to grant deferral based on the submittal of these updated timelines?
So there's no motion on the table at this moment, but it's just discussion at this point. But if that were the case, if the motion were made, I think it's going to depend on how that motion is phrased. But we could, the pleasure of the panel, could allow it for deferment till 2025 with the stipulation that you come back in October and actually provide that plan to us and the updates on the building.
Yeah. My thought is they clearly can't open in 24, so I think we should
Yeah.
grant the deferral subject to the results of the report they give us.
Yeah. So is that a motion?
I'd make that as a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second? Oh, I got 2 seconds. Okay. So I have a motion.
I hate to interrupt.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I know that there's a lot of discussion about both Pinecrest and Civica,
This
but
is
because
just
there
for
are separate
Pinecrest.
charters,
Yeah.
we need to have separate motions.
Right.
Okay.
So this one is strictly for Pinecrest.
Okay, I just wanted to be
Yes.
clear.
Yes. Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin, a second by Dr. Moore and Dr. Wright McMurray.
I feel strongly about this.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we'll fill out our voting sheets and we'll be back with you in just a moment. And just to be clear, the motion was for you to defer opening until 2025 and come back in October with a report and a plan concerning the building.
And
Oh,
enrollment.
yeah.
Results from community.
Dr. Wright McMurray?
I support Pinecrest Preparatory Academy's request to defer their opening date to August 2025 with stipulation that they present a progress report and amended plan of implementation by the October CAP meeting.
Mr. Scott?
I voted for Pinecrest Prep Academy's request to defer the start date to August 2025 with the stipulation for return to the CAP with more intel on facility and community support during the future fall CAP meeting.
Okay. Mr. Baldwin?
I voted in favor of opening date deferral to August 2025, subject to completion of the comprehensive plan of opening submitted to the charter panel in October 2024.
And Dr. Moore?
I support Pinecrest Preparatory Academy's request to defer the school start date to August 25, pending charter leadership providing an updated timeline and progress report during the October 2024 CAP meeting.
And then I voted for the motion to defer opening Pinecrest Preparatory Academy until the fall of 2025. I look forward to hearing the progress made towards acquiring a building and the recruitment of students. All right, thank you very much. Ms. Lima, do you have anything else you would like to add in relation to Civica?
No, the same would apply for Civica. We can update. We are happy to update with regard to timeline and facility search in October. Same updated timeline with regard to marketing and outreach, approximately same time. I'm happy to answer any other questions if there are any separate questions regarding Civica, but essentially the same updates would apply.
All right. Any questions from the panel? Do I have a motion?
I move that we support the request, again with the stipulation that they return in the fall to provide a progress report and an amended plan for implementation.
All right.
I second it.
Okay. So it's been moved by Dr. Wright McMurray and seconded by Mr. Baldwin and Dr. Moore. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Give us just a few minutes to fill this out and we'll get right back to you. We'll start on this end with Dr. Moore.
I support Civica Career and Collegiate Academy's request to defer the school start date to August 25, pending charter leadership, providing an updated timeline and progress report during the October 2024 CAP meeting.
Mr. Baldwin.
I support the CICBA deferral request to move opening to August 2025, subject to the submission of a school start plan to the CAP in October 2024.
Mr. Scott.
I voted for Civica Career and College Academy's request to defer start date to August 2025 with the stipulation of return to CAP with more intel on facility and community support during a future fall CAP meeting.
And Dr. Wright McMurray.
Okay, I voted for. I support Civica's Career and College Academy Bentonville request to defer their start date to August 2025 with stipulation that they present a progress report and amended plan of implementation by the October CAP meeting.
And then I voted for the motion to defer opening of Civica Career and Collegiate Academy until the fall of 2025. I look forward to hearing the progress made towards acquiring a building and the recruitment of students. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you all for your time.
All right, Ms. Summons.
Next, we have Founders Classical Academies of Arkansas. They're requesting to amend the grade level served at the Founders Classical Academy online campus from grades K-12 to grades 7-12. They're also asking to amend the grade level served at the Founders Classical Academy Bentonville campus from grades K-7 to grades K-8. And they're also asking to change the name of Founders Classical Academy Online to iSchool Virtual Academy of Arkansas and close the Founders Classical Academy Online Elementary.
All right.
And Ms. Presenza is here this morning representing Founders.
All right, thank you. All right. Well, those of you who plan on speaking on behalf of the charter, stand and raise your right hand. All right, do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you very much. You may begin.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having us here. I appreciate your time. My name is Susan Provenza, and I'm the State Director for Founders Classical Academies of Arkansas. And I recognize all of you guys, so maybe you recognize me. I'm going to try to make this go. Let's see here.
Might have to turn that, yeah.
May need to stand on one foot and hold my mouth right.
Yeah. All your friends.
Uh-huh.
Stay right there. Don't go anywhere.
Oh,
There it
we
goes.
go.
See, I just needed to.
Move around a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. All right, so our amendment overview, we are asking to amend the grades offered at 2 of our campuses. The first one is FCA Online from K-12. We want to amend it to serve 7-12, starting in 24-25. And at our Bentonville campus from K-7 to K-8, as originally presented to the panel at the time of the Rogers campus edition. This is kind of a paperwork cleanup issue right here. And then our name change is for Founders Classical Academies of Arkansas. We're seeking to change the school name from Founders Classical Academy Online to iSchool Virtual Academy of Arkansas. Our rationale for these changes: for our FCA Online, we have had consistent low enrollment for the elementary grades, and we really want the ability to focus heavily on growing that 7-12 program, where it is a better fit for students in terms of a virtual learning environment. For FCA Bentonville, we actually originally presented to the panel, and it was approved in 2020 with the addition of our Founders Rogers campus. That was a K-12 campus that we added, and we wanted our campuses to feed into that high school there. It was only included in the presentation and not the actual amendment request, and so the purpose is so that those two, Bentonville and Rogers K-8 systems, can feed into the FCA Rogers High School, creating a little bit bigger high school and offering the students a little more opportunities. So again, that's kind of a paperwork cleanup. 2020 was a crazy year, and so we just missed it in one spot. Our current enrollment for our campuses, you can see here our Bentonville campus is K-7 right now, and we had 732 students this past year. Our Rogers campus, K-6 had 522, 712 had 225. West Little Rock, K6 had 51, 712 had 85, and our online campus, K6 had 9, and 712, 21. Rationale for the name change, we really want to place an emphasis on our collegiate program. It is more college prep focused. It's got CTE and dual credit components to it. And by aligning it with a brand that we're good at in Texas as well, we feel like that would be a really good move for us to make. It's a competency-based education that meets the individual needs of the students and then also allows for advancement of coursework. Our purpose is to provide students across the state with a high-quality college preparatory virtual education that includes best digital learning practices and adequate wraparound support on their journey to high school graduation and further education. We want to be able to provide flexibility to students and families in their pursuit of a college preparatory education, and we also want to increase the impact of our academies across the state. So our intended outcomes, we want our 712, I'm speaking about our virtual environment that we're changing those grade levels on. We really want our students engaged in a high quality virtual program supported through best learning practices that allow for active learning, effective content, authoring, and personalized lesson design methods. We want to increase the percentage of Arkansans who are prepared for higher education. And we want to help students prepare for a successful life beyond high school through accelerated learning, concurrent courses, workplace readiness, military career readiness, and acceptance to university, college, or other trade schools. So again, our amendment request, we want to, bless you, amend those grades served in our virtual academy from K-12 to 7-12. We want to amend our Bentonville brick and mortar campus to add that 8th grade. And then we want to change the name of our virtual academy to iSchool Virtual Academy of Arkansas.
All right. So Dr. Moore, do you have any questions?
And I appreciate your rationale and what you explained. I do just want to know, because when someone hears classical academy, that really typically implies something to people, like that has like a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that that has changed in what you're doing, or do you still want people to view it as that classical education?
So for our the name change is only for that virtual online school.
Okay.
Not our entire charter. No, our brick and mortars are staying classical. That is much easier to do in person,
Right.
and we want our virtual school to really embrace what it is.
Okay. So the virtual really wasn't truly the classical.
You know, we kind of attempted, but it is
Okay.
it's pretty challenging. So we really want to go that more collegiate path.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Bolden?
So 2 questions. One is, as you were talking about the shifting of the grade levels and kind of feeding up into the high school, talk to us a little bit about the student, from the student perspective, their experience on this change. How will that impact the kids that are involved in the change? And I guess you've talked with the families and the parents, and are they supportive of this?
At our virtual school?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So for our virtual academy, yes, we are working with those families to get those current elementary students who are enrolled with us enrolled in other places. They obviously have priority at our brick and mortar campuses to attend there if they're nearby to one and they want to. So yes.
How many students is that are
In that virtual elementary, I think we had 9 this past
9?
year.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I have one question regarding, so you have your Premier Online Academy. Will that stay the same
Yes.
in the future, or
Yes.
will it move to this model as well?
No, well, I could call my colleague up here, but I kind of think I can answer for him, and that is that yes, Premier's going to stay focused the same way they are now.
Okay, just a clarification question. Mr. Scott?
You spoke to early on a quality decision to shift grade levels. Help me understand the journey in the K through 5 who no longer will be served by you.
Sure.
What's happening with those families, those students, et cetera? Are they receiving any help in placement elsewhere? one point you surveyed, now you're not.
Absolutely. So we started this, our journey with virtual academies after 2020, and there was a pretty high demand at that point. And just as we've worked through it, one of the things that we've realized is that often elementary families really want their students in a brick and mortar, and honestly, it's probably better for them. Elementary students really thrive in an environment where they have a little bit more of that social interaction and also that just teacher impact. And it's harder to achieve in a virtual elementary. And so for our families that are currently enrolled with us, we have been working directly with those families to place them in other schools. And like I said, they have priority in our brick and mortars. If they want to transfer to one of our brick and mortars, they can absolutely do that. And then we're also just working to place them to meet their needs.
I appreciate that because originally when you applied, the thought was K through 12, no
Right.
problem.
Yes.
But you experienced some challenges. Any additional challenges you were faced with in serving that? I say that because it's some great lessons learned for those who are continuing to aspire to serve them virtually.
Sure. I think just really think out all the components of what a virtual education looks like for elementary students. And I think maybe coming off the heels of 2020, we might have had a vision for what it looked like. And then, you know, as time goes by and things change, we realize maybe that's not exactly what it looks like. And so I think it is pretty challenging for elementary students.
Is the training or PD associated with staff? And then there's also perhaps relative to the parents too, to serve those students? Describe a PD for both staff and families.
Sure. So all of our teachers go through pretty extensive professional development, and obviously with our virtual educators working on best practices for what a virtual education looks like, how to do that, how to keep students engaged when they are at home and when they are in that virtual environment. And then for our families, it's also that opportunity to talk to them about what that partnership education looks like, because truly at the elementary level in a virtual school, it has to be a family partnership. Those families have to be very, very engaged. And I mean, like any school, some are and some aren't. And so that's definitely a challenge.
Okay. I think my last question deals with the fact that there's a lot of energy around performance and your brand. So are you confident going forward that you still have that impact that you need relative to the performance of those students you're serving?
Yes, for our for the 712 in the virtual academy, I have all the confidence in the world that we are going to have some successful performance. Thank you.
Dr. Wright McMurray.
I just would like to give you an opportunity to speak a little bit more about your CTE offerings and what pathways will be available for students through the virtual components.
Absolutely. Do you have some details on that? Thank you.
I mean, what we've started to do is partner with Virtual Arkansas, looking at the courses they have. It just seems it works. We've been partnering with them in our brick and mortar locations and exposing students to that course catalog, also starting off with like career inventories, kind of figure out what students are interested in. And then luckily, since we do have brick and mortar locations across the state as well, we do have some partners we're already working with, which also works out as well for the CT partners in those communities. And so, for instance, if I was to use like this area, for instance, we partner with Little Rock School District Metro, and so then our students are able to tap into those pathways in Metro and try to have that a part of the onboarding process.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
One additional one, as you track student success plans, community service learning in your world, help us understand the success and or challenges that you may be facing there.
Well, one of the things we really appreciate the department. There's been a lot of work into that, and so the templates and resources we received from the department have been instrumental in that. Once again, throughout that student onboarding, we're able to start administering those inventory assessments, start driving those conversations. We actually just hired a additional college and career counselor for the virtual program to specifically work on those students, because since they're not on site, we all know we learned a lot during COVID that virtual works as well. And so from the success plan, we're able to do it, it's just virtually. From the community service component, it's once again, since we do have brick and mortar campuses out here, it's taking advantage of some of those partners. And I like what you said earlier about trying to make sure that the career interest that the students have is driven through that community service learning as well. And so continue to try to grow our partners, not to just check the box, but make it meaningful for our students, and hopefully they're gaining some knowledge and getting a little bit of experience of what potentially they think they'll be interested in after high school.
I appreciate that. Ideally, they'd be great to have their partnership, they have the experience, and who knows, they come back to the community and be a prominent part, serve a prominent role within the community, should they come back.
I just have one more question. It was the same question I posed earlier about, do you have any hard data on why they choose the virtual option versus, say, coming to your brick and mortar campuses?
I would say, it sounds like it's just a buzzword these days, but flexibility. You find out a lot of parents and students have unique circumstances, whether it ranges from, transportation, whether it ranges from where they live, who they're living with, medical and health, and so just flexibility. It seems like parents like the flexibility, and some parents actually started during COVID, as we talked about, and it's just kind of, they're more comfortable with that offering, and their students have become comfortable with that offering, and so it works really well.
And as I did earlier, I would probably encourage you to go ahead and maybe do a survey to get some hard data, because sometimes what we think are the reasons aren't always exactly the reasons, and so that might help you to, help with your recruitment efforts, things of that nature, moving forward. So if you could just kind of survey those that are currently there, then you might have something to work with. Yeah.
Made me think about one scenario. You familiar with the home visits, right?
Yeah.
Well, even in the virtual world, there are virtual home visit options. I'd encourage you to take a look at that. We have some that are referenceable, so you can gain a lot of intel about what's going on in the world of the families in that way, and assist you.
Thank you.
Other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I support the amendment request submitted by Founders Classical Academy.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Dr. Wright McMurray and a second by Mr. Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Congratulations, and we'll fill out our voting sheets.
Thank you, appreciate it.
we'll start with Dr. Wright McMurray.
I voted for. I support. I'm on the wrong one. I think it's throwing me off. There it goes. Okay. I support Founders Classical Academy's request to amend their charter to serve students in grades 7 through 12 at FCA Online, grades K through 8 at FCA Bentonville, and change the name of Founders Classical Academy Online to iSchool Virtual Academy of Arkansas.
All right, Mr. Scott?
I voted for the amendment requests of Founders Classical Academy because their intentional approach to addressing the needs of the students they serve, their alignment with rebranding efforts should place them on the right pathway for successful student outcomes.
Okay, Mr. Baldwin?
I voted in favor of the grade level amendment request to change the online campus to grades 7 through 12 and to change the online school name to iSchool Virtual Academy of Arkansas. And then I note that this approval will eliminate the Founders Academy Online IEA 0442702.
All right, and Dr. Moore?
I support FCA of Arkansas's request to amend grade levels served at the FCA online campus from grades K-12 to grades 7-12, amend the grade level served at the FCA Bentonville campus from grades K-7 to K-8, and change the names of FCA online to iSchool Virtual Academy of Arkansas.
And then I voted for the amendment as presented by Founders Classical Academy. The changes will aid in the charter in serving students with educational solutions that meet their needs. So congratulations. All right, thank you very much. Ms. Simmons?
Okay, next we have Cabot Panther Academy. They're requesting to add a new campus, and they're also requesting to change the grade level served from grades 5 through 12 to grades K-12, and the charter was asked to return with additional clarification of the request. We have Mr. Michael Bird here representing Cabot School District.
All right, if you'll raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. All right, you may begin.
Michael Bird, Deputy Superintendent, Cabot Schools. Thank you for allowing me to be here this morning panel. My colleague, Mr. Aaron Randolph, was not available to be here and has asked me to provide some more information for you this morning. That's a carryover from last month. So I have a short presentation I'd like to share with you. First, the mission of the Cabot Panther Academy is to reimagine education and building relationships, inspiring every student to reach their full potential, teaching them academics and life skills, guide them to become successful, productive citizens, and helping them to find their own strengths and unique abilities. When we came here last month, we had a proposal to add our Cabot Learning Academy, which is currently an ALE setting in our district. So we have 3 ALE settings in our district. We have the Cabot Panther Academy, we have our traditional ALE program, both of which fall under our current charter. And then we have our Cabot Learning Academy, which is not under the current charter, but that's what our request is, this program that we've had for many years in the Cabot School District be added under the charter. In doing that, in order to fit the needs of the charter, we're requesting, or in order to fit the needs of the population of the students at that school, at Cabot Learning Academy, we requested for the grade levels to be changed to K-12 instead of 5-12. So our proposed amendments is to add Cabot Learning Academy, which is a K-12 building, to the Cabot Panther charter. It's currently an existing building. It's a building that the district funded and built this past school year. It opened in January of 2024, and our students moved in and began the second semester of the 23-24 school year in January in this existing building. And then we're also requesting to amend the existing waivers, which Cabot Panther Academy has, to only to apply for students in grades 5 through 12. Last month, there was some feedback from CAP members, and we want to make sure that we address that. Part of the rationale for the addition of Cabot Learning Academy is that under our present coding system, our students who are in CLA are coded in houses, and so they're actually remain in their current building, whether it's an elementary school or a different junior high or whatever that is, but they're pulled into certain houses in each school. So within their buildings versus being pulled to a separate LEA. Let me give you an example. If I have a student who is at an elementary building in Cabot and they go to Cabot Learning Academy, they still show in the numbers or in the e-school as being an elementary student in a specific elementary school. And we house them, we have a house label that says CLA. If a different student is in an alternative learning environment or at Cabot Panther Academy, that change is not in a house. That change is actually made in an LEA change that shows up in the entry withdrawal program in eSchool. So that's what we're requesting, is that CLA have its own LEA, be under the charter, and that students can be assigned or assigned to Cabot Learning Academy. It's kind of a behind the scenes thing. When you start looking at adding grades for students, just as an example, our teachers at CLA have students from, I think, 6 or 7 different elementary schools in K-4 right now. And when they go to enter grades for those students, they have to go to 6 different teacher access centers in order to 6 different screens in order to enter grades for those students because they're not housed or they're not in one LEA. The same can apply to when you start looking at testing. And I believe we were in the middle of testing season last time we were here. It presents its own challenges when you're trying to pull students for testing when they're housed or coded to 6 different elementary schools instead of one LEA. So our students and staff need to be able to need to be coded as one LEA for the data and assessment purposes. There were also, I believe, some questions about accountability, and I want to make sure that we address that fully here today. As Cabot Panther Academy is classified as an ALE, it does not receive an A through F ranking from the state. However, every student enrolled at Cabot Panther Academy is coded back to their prospective home school and counts towards that home school's accountability measure. The same thing is true for our current CLA program. Those students, since they are in an ALE environment, currently are not moved to a different LEA, but are coded to their school. With this change, those students' scores would still go back to the school where they are currently going now. So there's no accountability change, even if the panel sees fit to approve this request. At Cabot Panther Academy and CLA, both are ALEs and would be evaluated as such, as any other ALE would. And Cabot Panther Academy is evaluated for potential renewal under the conversion charter school, just as any other charter school would be. So at this time, that's all that I have prepared for you, but I'm certainly willing and will do my best to answer any questions that you may have.
Dr. Wright-Murray, do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you for your presentation and you guys working on our questions and providing responses and your willingness to come back. I do have one question I just need a little bit of clarification on. As regards to one of your waivers for school counselor licensure, do you have any information or details how that, if that has or has it been used in the past, and how it will be used at the academy?
We currently have counseling staff that is certified at our CLA building that is on site all day long, and at Cabot Panther Academy and at our traditional ALE building. So that is currently not something that we're utilizing.
Okay. So just a question, do you think that's a waiver you need to continue to have, or?
I will say it is one that we have utilized in the past, but with
Okay.
our staffing currently, we're able to make that work, and so we feel like it has behooved us to have that counselor in those buildings because we currently have the staff in order to make that work.
Okay.
Well, it's been something that we have utilized in the past.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Scott?
Yes, thank you again for your presentation. If you could just walk me through the various houses and is there any movement of students from one to another? What's the criteria associated with placement of students in CLA versus Cabot Panther Academy versus the traditional district?
Sure, absolutely. I'll do my best to answer that. So when I say houses, we have students that are currently in our CLA program. They are in a building somewhere in the Cabot School District, one of the 17 buildings in the Cabot School District. But we put in a house code that says CLA, so that when we go to pull data on those students, we can pull students that all have that house code for CLA first grade, or CLA 10th grade, or CLA 12th grade. And that lets us pull the data. So when I say that they're in a house, that CLA house in e-school is what allows us to accumulate that data and pull it together. So as far as, I believe the second question was, how are they, the determination of how students are placed at CLA, or?
Yes, are those decisions on the school/district side, or are parents applying?
Yeah, so that's really a great question. We have about 60 students that are currently at Cabot Panther Academy, at CLA, and 60% of those 60 students have IEPs. And so that is an IEP team coming together for approximately 35, 36 kids, deciding that this is the best environment for this student. And that's working with parents, that's working with counselors, classroom teachers, for students that have maybe emotional needs or behavioral needs in order to meet the needs of that student. Additionally, there's another 27% of our students at CLA that have a 504 and have gone through a process through Tier 1 and Tier 2 RTI with behavior interventions and making sure that we provide what a student needs in the typical gen ed setting in Tier 1 and then Tier 2 with remediation, and trying to help there as much as we can, and then eventually working with parents for a CLA placement where it's a little bit more intensive in a 1 to 15 environment. And then you've got about 13% of our student population at CLA that is a gen ed student that has some behavior or emotional concerns.
So is there a pathway of those students that in those academies back out of there into?
You read my mind. That is a fantastic question. Absolutely. So when a student, we have a level system that our students work on there. So they're looking typically at behavior or emotional concerns that a student has. And when a student is able to level up or move from one level to another, there's a certain threshold that's been set and determined by the team. And then they're able to start working back out into what the gen ed environment or the next step would be. Maybe that's into a behavior classroom at maybe our high school, where they get a little bit more support, but have some emotional and social learning block built into the day. And then they go in for 1 or 2 classes, and then they come to that. And then they do half and half for a day, or half of their day at Cabot Learning Academy, and then maybe half of their day at the traditional high school. And until they're able to work into being a full day at Cabot High School in the least restricted environment. So there is a process.
Okay. My last question is, I'm in this world of engagement, and a lot of that is associated with having a diverse set of voices, planning activities for the year that promote increased staff capacity to learn how, and parents' capacity to learn how to work together as co-equal partners. So is there a set of diverse voices, meaning staff and perhaps community and family members meeting at all in these academies?
You know, as we went through the construction process of our Cabot Learning Academy over the last year and a half, when this process started about a year and a half ago, it really brought individuals from the community into the process, in addition to parents who were part of that process too. When we started thinking about what are the needs of our students, with a very diverse set of needs, and sometimes the most intensive needs that we have in the district, how do we accommodate that? From building structure to maybe even admin structure, and looking at what are we providing to our students across the board. So building that facility really helped increase the number of voices that were heard and had a hand in creating what CLA is today.
All right, appreciate that. I just FYI, my mascot for my high school was a panther, so this got my attention. So
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And normally I'd wait till the end to ask my questions, but it kind of piggybacks on what you're talking about, so I kind of wanted to ask it now. And it was addressed in a question I had actually sent to our charter director, and it's about the nature of your accountability and looking at, you know, if I pull up on my school info, Cabot Panther Academy, it comes up with, of course, no letter grades because of the exemption.
Sure.
But then below there, we do have an ESSA school index. So if they are indeed being pulled back to, and I'm trying to understand the logistics of it, if they're being pulled back to their home schools, how is there an ESSA school index? And then how are we educating parents about what that ESSA school index means so that they understand, one, that now CLA is gonna go, in this case, underneath Cabot Panther Academy, so they know they have to look there. And then how do they understand that ESSA school index, since there's not that easy indicator of a grade to identify it?
So what I would say is there are a lot of variables that go into that index. I can't speak to all of those today, but I do understand the question. Where is that coming from?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have a great answer for you at this time, but I do understand that question. I'm going to make myself a note. Like I said, I don't know if I have a great answer for you.
Well, and I guess the other piece of that is how is Cabot educating the parents about, because it's confusing sometimes for some of us, so when we're looking at the fact that they're being sort of placed in their home schools for their accountability, but then they're going to CLA, but then there's a score here for Cabot Panther Academy, but then they can't really discern because their students aren't really going to their home schools. I guess it muddies the waters a little bit for parents.
Sure.
on that end, and I'm just wondering, how do you disentangle all of that and make sure that they understand what's going on with the school that their child is enrolled
Yeah, and
in?
I think a way to do that would be through our interview process. So for Cabot Panther Academy, there's an actual interview process that students go through with their parents, where we talk about the school, we talk about what the school is, we talk about the success of the school, what the school isn't,
Mhm.
and what it's not intended to be, and really kind of make sure that we're all on the same page before a student is actually accepted into Cabot Panther Academy. The same process plays out in the ALE committee meetings, so that it's a group decision at the committee meeting, having discussion about what the ALE is, about what it's not, and making sure that it is the right setting for an individual that may need the alternative learning environment for a certain amount of time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Baldwin?
I think most of my questions have been well asked and well answered. Just one final. In looking at your request, to me, it looks like it's financially neutral because you already own the building. So are there any costs that you're incurring, new costs in any of this, or is it just a bottom line?
There really is no new cost to any of this. It is all really a behind-the-scenes move that makes things logistically better for the individuals that are working with students on a daily basis, so that they can devote their time to students and not as much time to trying to figure out how do I make this system work the way it's set up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Moore?
Thank you for the additional information. That was really helpful. My only question is, I don't understand, since the waivers aren't going to apply for the grades below grade 5, why do you need it to be part of the charter? Why can't it just be another LEA? That seems to be, it's just in my simple mind, the obvious fix. I don't understand the need for the charter.
I would say that the reason that we would like to have it under the charter I don't know. I'm a little stumped by the question.
Because what you explained makes perfect sense. Like,
Right.
I didn't realize all that behind-the-scenes coding.
Yes.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare. I mean, that's terrible for the teachers and for everyone. But I just don't see why another LEA, where that building, just like, Magnus Creek has an LEA, Southside has an LEA, why would that just not have an LEA?
Well, I guess the best answer I can give you is that we have 3 alternative learning environments in our district. 2 of them fall under the charter. It would make things consistent across the district if all three of them were under the charter, and give us that ability to make sure that it's consistent regardless of what environment we're talking about with our ALE, that it's all under the same charter.
But since the again, the purpose of the charter is for waivers. That's the purpose of it. So if the waivers aren't gonna apply, I don't understand it.
Not in K4, not in K4. Some of the waivers may apply in the 512, but not in K4.
Okay, so this is a K-12 then?
So CLA is a K-12 building, so there are 60 students in that building, in that program currently, that are in kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay, in my head, I had it as elementary. That's my bad.
So no, it goes kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay. So then that's another concern about the waivers for the students who are the most in need of services. That's a separate concern then. So I need to look back at the waivers then because of that.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, 60% of our students do have IEPs, and so there is a IEP team that is building exactly what each student needs to make sure that that plan fits them specifically. An additional 27% of our students have 504s, so there's also a team that is coming together to build a plan that is specific for those students as well at CLA.
I'd like to piggyback on what Dr. Moore just shared. And part of it is differentiating charter versus traditional public school. So just wondering the why, what differentiated and classifies it as a charter, which is a performance-based contract, but the type of students you're serving primarily are ALE. So just wondering what differentiates that school, Capital Panther, from any other ALE.
So ask that one more time. How do we differentiate?
What differentiates the Cabot Panther Academy as a charter, required charter? Piggybacking.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I think it really goes back to what we heard in a previous presentation. It's the flexibility. It's the stuff that people have going on in lives and families have going on in lives that gives them the flexibility to choose what's best for their student. There are so many stories from individual families that have, for whatever reason, had a struggle in traditional school settings, and you could look at that as whether it's an income-based thing or emotional needs or medical needs, or there's a plethora of reasons that people choose that. And CLA is just another option for families that are struggling with kids that may have emotional or behavioral concerns, and gives them a more intensive environment where the staff is truly a 1 to 15, well, 3 to 15 at times, in a classroom, working with students to get them back to a traditional setting if that's what's best for them. So to answer your question, what sets it apart from Cabot School District is that it allows families the flexibility to do what fits their needs best.
So piggybacking on his question, so what would it differentiate it from a traditional ALE?
So our traditional ALE, we do have that setting as well. And so what's different than a traditional ALE is that it's a hybrid environment. It's where students come part of the day, or it can be completely virtual. We don't have many students that choose the completely virtual option, but most of our students choose the hybrid day, where they come to school for 3 hours a day, 3 or 4 days a week, and they're able then to go work other jobs or take care of other needs that the family may have. And so that's really what sets it apart from the traditional ALE. The traditional ALE is an all-day program. Students don't have the flexibility to leave during the middle of the day, but it does, at the traditional ALE, provide more counseling and more thoughtfulness about decision-making and making sure that we're providing what our students need in order to take that next step.
And I'll add to that. Y'all may remember that I said my son graduated from Cabot Panther Academy, and he did not need an ALE environment, but he had made some choices that made him where he would not be graduating on time had he not been able to do that, where he could complete multiple credits at his own pace with a lot of encouragement and support from the people there. I didn't even buy the boy graduation invitation invitation announcements, because we did not think he was gonna graduate. But we were pleasantly pleased that he did. So it's definitely not a traditional ALE environment. And I've known several other families that, you know, across the socioeconomic status spectrum, depending on very different needs, whether it be a health need, whether it be an income matter, students having to get out and support their families and have to have an alternative schedule at school. So that part of that I'm familiar with is very different. I'm not familiar with the academy that we're talking about, the Learning Academy. But as far as Cabot Panther Academy, it really does it fits that mold of a charter to meet the needs of the community and parents.
Other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, let's let Stephen do his legal review, sorry.
Just wanted to clarify a few things. So at the last meeting, the panel asked for a list of all of the waivers that would apply to the Cabot Learning Academy if it was put under the charter. Mr. Scott, kind of to your question, the reason why, I can't speak for the district, but why you would want a charter as opposed to the districts, because the waivers would apply only to the charter and not to all the students in the district. And so there was a couple of cleanup things that I wanted to mention. So under the school district's digital learning plan, the class size and teaching load waiver, library media services, and the teacher salaries, those are all under the district's digital learning plan. And not under the district conversion charter. So I can't give legal advice to the district, but if the district wants those waivers to apply to its charter, it should say so on the record. Additionally, there are 2 waivers that the charter currently holds for the Public School Employee Fair Hearing Act and the Teacher Fair Dismissal Act. Both of those laws were repealed in the last session. And so I would ask that the charter rescind those waivers because they're waiving a law that doesn't exist anymore. And I think that is all of the cleanup that I wanted to do. But I did attach that list of the waivers to the agenda.
Okay.
So Stephen, looking at that list, that means for grades 5 through 12, for these students that have these intense needs, there wouldn't be teacher licensure requirements. They don't have to have a qualified teacher in every classroom.
That's correct. That's what the Cabot Panther Academy currently has waivers. I mean, they currently have all these waivers. So any new students that are added to that charter those waivers would apply to all of those students.
I guess I'm sorry.
Yes. Dr. Wright-Memory?
Sorry. When I have my readers on, I can't then see what's going on
Yes.
around me, so I didn't know if I'm asking. So I guess when I was reviewing the waivers earlier, I didn't see the digital learning plan. Is it not listed on here?
So I just put the waivers of the list and I highlighted the ones that I found that
Okay.
were not part of the district conversion charter. That's not how the school got those waivers. They got them through their digital learning plan.
Okay.
Presumably during COVID, I wasn't here then, so I don't know if that was,
And DLPs no longer
and
exist.
correct. The department's no longer doing DLPs.
So that's why I was a little
So-
confused. Okay.
If they don't apply, so that they don't amend the charter to add these waivers, those waivers will expire in July of 2027, which is a long way out, but I thought that I would bring it up now so that we didn't have to bring it up later.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to amend your charter to add the waivers that are under your DLP, just come up here and say so on the record, so we have a clear record. So
Also make a request to add the waivers that are under the DLP to the current charter.
And then, if you want to, I'm not telling you what to do, but if you want to go ahead and rescind the 2 waivers for the 2 laws that were repealed in the legislative session, you guys have those waivers now.
And then we do make that request to repeal those 2 waivers.
All right.
That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Wright-Memory?
Okay, just for my clarification, now what's happening with the DLP? I'm trying to follow the conversation.
So they've requested the waivers that were under the DLP.
That is no longer valid.
Well, it's valid till 2027. We're not granting them anymore, but.
That's what my question,
yeah.
so I shouldn't say normally valid. My question is that it will expire in 2027, and so by us having this action is not going to provide any additional time period for the DLP
not for
because
the
it's no
DLP.
longer available.
That's correct.
Right.
It's just adding them to the
Okay.
charter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Scott?
Just want to confirm, it sounds like this is a piggyback from Dr. Moore. In an environment where there's tremendous need at the student level, there's a waiver for teacher licensure. So in theory, you can have an environment where the staff member providing that support from the teaching does not have that license to support that need. Is that right? Am I reading that right? Because of that waiver?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Other questions?
So I guess can we give the district an opportunity to speak to how that waiver is currently being
Mhm.
used at the academy?
So at Cabot Panther Academy?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so it is currently being utilized at Cabot Panther Academy for students that may need to take a certain class or whatever. We have students that are assigned to teachers that may not have the licensure for that, but may have a licensure in another area.
So they have a license, they're
Yes.
just not maybe licensed in that specific subject area that
Either
they
have
are
a license
overseeing.
or on an AOP and working towards a license, yes.
The highly qualified teacher is also a waiver.
Well, AQT, they have to be AQT in order to be working under that waiver.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. But right now, in your CLA, everyone is certified,
Correct.
but this would open it up.
And we don't
where
have
they
any
wouldn't
plans to change the way that program is operating.
Sorry, once again. Maybe we should have had 2 cups of coffee this morning instead of just the one. But so what we're saying is that currently at the Panther Academy, all of your teachers that are there, they are licensed, are certified.
Yes,
But just maybe not in their specific area that they may be.
potentially,
instructed.
yes.
Okay. So we currently do not have unlicensed or uncertified teachers that
No.
are working there. Okay.
As long as there's a focus on accountability and performance, as long as that is indeed the case, independent of the licensures and the situation involving the waivers, I'm okay. Well, meaning there is I don't want to speak for you, but there is an increased effort for work on student performance.
Say that one more time. There's an increased
Student
effort.
performance is still a focal area.
100%.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the Cabot School District cares deeply about the academic learning of our students, but not only that, their performance afterwards, giving back to the community, being able to come back to our community and provide support for other individuals. We are all in helping students succeed, and not just in academics, but in life. And we are going to do everything that we can in order to make that happen. And that's our track record, and I can assure you that's what we're going to do moving forward as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Is there still questions, or, and I don't know if I'm the one to ask that question, but it's
Yeah,
really,
that-
I feel like we're all looking at each other.
Yeah.
Still questions?
I still struggle to be okay with having these waivers available for that group of students that are in the most need. I have firm faith in the Cabot School District and live purposely in Cabot because I believe in the Cabot School District and in the leadership, and I don't think they would ever be nefarious and plan to not serve students. I 100% support that school district. But I don't want to set a precedent where I would, in another school district, have set this up, that I might not have that, personal trust and knowledge of their systems. I can't in good faith support a school that is structured for students that are in that most need to have these waivers in place. I'm sorry.
And I might add that you are a new member to the board, so, this would be setting a precedent for you and your decisions. So I just want to acknowledge that, yeah.
And I can't recuse myself
Yeah.
because we have such a small group. So.
So,
Well, the only thing that's wrong with the matter that she just shared, the precedent that will be set.
mhm.
Ideally, you identify the needs and you map that to the appropriate resources and you move forward. There's a level of inspiration you have, and obviously, Cabot School District is one that is focused on that. But to set a precedent for future groups that will come in and say, oh, I'm gonna leverage those waivers, and the question becomes the plight of those students that are being served. That's the only thing that's I'm juggling with.
I guess just the question that I have, and just, I fully understand what everyone is saying, I do, because, when we have the most high need students, we need to try to ensure that they have the most supports. But I guess I just am thinking about other charters that have a similar focus of supporting students that are in alternative learning environments that have come before us and have had similar waivers. So I guess I just want to then not set this precedent, so then if we have other ones that come before us, it's kind of like we let them go, and then, so going forward, we would then not have that same ability to support those schools going forward, because part of the intention of them having that is to be able to, in some aspects, bring in folks that they can get to the level of being licensed and certified, but come in with a skill set that may be of a benefit to the classroom as well. So I'm kind of bouncing between both of them, I guess. So I'm trying to kind of get figured out, how do we not go so far to the other side of it, to then where we are setting a precedent to where that really won't be an available waiver for folks going forward. If we say,
And I
I
see
have-
your point there, but I haven't heard any plans for things to actually be different. Like, we do waivers so you can do things different to meet needs.
Okay.
And schools that come in that want a waiver, it's because they have this other plan of how they plan
Sure.
to do something.
yeah.
And I haven't heard that plan of attack for that.
Okay.
So
Or
let
just the
me-
need, I should say. I've not heard a need for the waivers.
Sure.
Let me ask the question, because I'm sitting here reading the description of what you're requesting, and I guess I've lost total, I don't understand what we're even talking about, because I don't get all the LEAs. I'm not an educator. That's all foreign to me, but it looks to me like you're requesting to add a new campus to be located at 407 South Polk, and to change the grade levels served from 5 to 12 to K through 12. So that's the request. And I guess I hear the concern about, I guess you're also requesting certain waivers for this. Are these existing waivers, or are these new?
Yes, these would all be their existing waivers for Cabot Panther Academy. This school CLA would come underneath Cabot Panther Academy.
Okay, so that's the change, and that's what you guys are concerned about. Would you all be willing to change that so the waivers don't cause the concern that they're causing to get these other two items approved, or are you intending to change that?
Certainly, and that's part of the reason we're back here today. That was part of the request. Last time was that there was concern with K4, and and so that's why the request is to not have those waivers apply, except for 512, as they currently do under the charter, even at the CLA building. And I'll say this: our CLA environment as an ALE is very outside the box and very diverse in what we offer students there, and is very, I would say, cutting edge on what public schools are doing for kids across our state. And the services that we're able to offer there have really been thought out and designed to keep kids in school and to keep families engaged with our community. That's the purpose of CLA. The purpose of the request is some logistic things in the back end to make it easier for the educators that are trying to work with kids every day, and to clean up some logistic things that we're having to deal with data when it comes to grading, and the testing piece, and trying to get kids from one building, but they're actually not in that building, they're in another building, but in a house. And so that's the purpose of the request, is to clean up those things, to make it easier for the adults that are trying to serve these kids.
And so I guess my question would be, if you're doing all of these innovative things now with CLA, but without the waivers, how will the waivers impact that once you have those in place?
Yeah, so there's really not been a lot of thought put into how these waivers are going to affect CLA, because there's not a plan to use the waivers at CLA. The CLA is going to continue to function for the foreseeable future as it currently is, as a program that is what's best for kids. It does create some thought based on what I heard earlier, is that maybe there is an innovative approach, or maybe there is an individual with a heart for kids that may not have a specific licensure moving forward, but it's what's best for kids. And if that's an option for us moving forward, and that's what's best for kids and families, and that becomes something that we can utilize to make it better for our community and for our students in order to accomplish a graduation, or in order to go on to college, or to a trade school, or whatever their next step is, then we would certainly be willing to utilize something like that.
And what I think I'm hearing from panel members, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but what I think I'm hearing is, if everything is working as it should currently, and this is just a logistical change, why even include the 512 waivers for that particular campus when it could continue to function as is, and they could still be under Cabot Panther Academy for logistical purposes, but not have the waivers apply K-12 at CLA. Is that what I'm hearing?
That, or have just an LEA.
Yeah, either one of those would work. Because if it's a logistical change, I'm with you. I see the LEA number as being the best way to go. Other comments or questions?
Like I said, I guess a question. So currently, the way the campus is structured, they have not had access to the waivers in the past.
Correct.
It operates as an ALE.
Okay.
It's an alternative learning environment.
So this would be new for that campus, but just not new for the charter
Yes,
itself.
for
Yeah.
Cabot Panther.
I don't know. I guess I'm kind of still where I am. Is that I understand everyone's points. I want to be careful not to today do something that we've allowed to happen with other charters in the past, and then going forward, then I would feel responsible and obligated to say whoever comes in front of me going forward, I would have to treat the same. And so I'm just trying to be cautious about that. Now, if the district is saying, okay, we're willing to say we have not utilized the waiver without having access to it, and now we have access to it, we don't plan to then start to bring in, like the majority of the teaching staff is going to be folks who are not licensed and are not credentialed or certified, then that would be a greater concern. But if the intent is going to be that moving forward, we're going to continue to operate as we have, where we have folks in front of students that do have their appropriate credentials, then if there's like it's not the norm, but is an exception case where we would need to have the accommodation, then I would be okay with that. But if it's
I'm going to quote the voice of Deb Kaufman here.
What'd you say?
I'm going to quote the voice of Deb Kaufman
Okay.
here, which is, waiver shouldn't be given just in case?
Well, I know that,
Yeah.
because, you know, I was on with Deb, and
Yeah.
that voice rings true as well.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be cautious on not doing something that we've allowed to happen before,
Yeah.
and then I would feel obligated not to allow it to happen again. So
Yeah.
that's my only thing. But if the district is saying, okay, well, we don't really need it, it was just a part of, then, but I don't feel like we've forced anybody.
Yeah, and I guess, and that, what you're just saying right there is my concern. If it's not needed, then why are we doing it? Because when people come to us, normally it's because they need it and have a purpose for it. So if there's not a need or a purpose, and it's a population that you certainly need to make sure they're being served. And
Sure.
like I said, I'm confident they will. Teacher of the Year was a SPED teacher in Cabot, so there's that. I just don't see the need or purpose.
So then I guess my question is back to the district. I mean, what will be their thoughts on that? On what are your thoughts on, because that seems to be a sticking point. So what would be your thoughts on not having that as being one of the included waivers? If, as you're currently operating, you haven't needed it, nor had you had access to it, so you've been able to appropriately function without having the waiver for teaching licensure?
Could I add to that question there? Same question.
I don't know if I want you to do that. But, no, I'm just asking.
A description of what's the environment with approval, what are you facing without approval?
So without approval, we're going to continue to operate and take care of kids. And it just, the logistical pieces will continue to be a challenge for us, and it's been a challenge, but it's not something we haven't been able to overcome. The grading thing, the collecting the data, the pulling students for tests and making sure all the testing and all those pieces come together appropriately, we'll make that happen. So if the request is denied, then we can certainly continue on and we'll take care of kids. We've done it and we will continue to do so.
So I'll speak for myself. I don't think that my intention is deny your request, because what you have explained to us on the reason why you're even before us to make these changes makes perfect sense. Because it sounds like it's just a logistical nightmare for your teachers, and it sounds like it's an excessive use of additional time that could be spent on more productive tasks. I think from what we're saying, the sticking point is the waiver for the licensure, because even when you answered my question about school council, I felt a little bit more comfortable in that, because my concern was, we have students that are in an ALE environment, and if they don't have access to a certified counselor, that's very, disconcerting, but you explained that that has not been the case. So it's not, that's also not the case with teachers as well, you would have it on the books, but you wouldn't really be utilizing it. And it seems like if it's a sticking point for the panel that it's there, would the district be willing to consider not having access to that waiver if it has not been utilized in the past?
I just want to clarify something real quick about the waiver. So the waiver for teacher licensure already exists for Cabot Panther Academy.
Right.
And if the request is to add the students from the Cabot Learning Academy to that charter, then the teacher licensure waiver would cover those new students. But if you remove the teacher licensure waiver from the charter, then the Cabot Panther Academy loses the waiver as well as the Learning Academy. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, then how does that work for the K-4?
Well, for the K-4, they're amending their request to not include the K-4. So that would include the charter.
So how can they amend the request to not include the K-4 and not CLA?
Well, they can't. I mean, if they're amending the request to not include K-4, then that would amend the charter so that the entire charter wouldn't have the waiver.
So you're saying based on the LEA number then?
The waivers are attached to the LEA number.
Right.
And so anything under that LEA number has that waiver currently.
Right.
So if you add more students to that
So
LEA
then
number.
technically it's going to apply to K-4.
For now, right now it does, but.
No, what I'm saying is once the K-4 is added, it's going to apply because it's under that LEA number. Because there's no way for the system to catch it. So, I mean, the argument is the same either way.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah,
about how the waivers operate.
yeah.
Okay,
I don't know if that
Let-
helps
let
with the
me-
decision or not, but.
I'm extra
Let me jump
confused
in.
now.
So I've been quiet because I really am confused about what we're all talking about. I think we're two ships passing tonight. I think you guys have a well-intentioned plan to do something that will be helpful to you all, but the details of it are not, were not presented to us. I was just looking back at all the information, and everything we've talked about in here is not in here. This is just general information stuff. I think it would be helpful, if you all really want to do this, you've got to come back and be responsive to the questions that we're asking. And I'm not, I don't know the details of all these questions, but the fact I don't know and I'm confused concerns me to vote in favor of this. And I think what we're talking about is just denying this, just me speaking, and let you guys come back. And if you really want to do this, come back and make your case and convince us that this is the right thing to do.
So at a chance of not being invited back again, I believe it would be best for us to withdraw
Yes.
the request at this time and to have some conversation about the LEA, to have some conversation about some of the points that you brought up today, just to make sure that we answer fully if we decide that this is the direction we still want to go moving forward.
And I don't know what the LEA entails, because that's not something I've ever done. Do any of y'all have?
So it's just an LEA request to add a new campus. So it normally, it's passed for this year. For next year, it'll be June 1st is the deadline for the LEA request, and it's just a request to add a new campus. Yeah.
Yeah, because I agree with what he said and what Dr.
Yeah.
Murray, that sounds terrible, the logistics of what you're having to do.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think, it's something where it's a simple fix to do it logistically that way, as opposed to going, and if we can get the answers to the questions that we have, maybe that'll change.
Absolutely.
And I think also, since I did directly ask the question through our charter director about the parents being educated on that accountability piece, I don't feel comfortable voting for it as a parent, knowing that this is, one, a vulnerable population, and two, these parents are really going to be trying to look to see how is their school performing, and they're not able to look through that data and figure it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So I did have another question, but I guess I can just ask you. So the other options that are available, you said so would they have an opportunity to address these concerns this summer so that they could have that in place for
Yes.
the next academic year?
So the amendment request could be addressed and come in August, and then be able to, if they have enough time to come up with a plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Matthew, on the new LEA, you said the deadline is June 1st.
That's why I'm a little
And
confused.
is there no
Yeah.
workaround for that? No?
That would be a question for Carmen, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
because they came to us
Mhm.
months ago.
Right.
And we delayed things and didn't really give that answer
Yeah.
until today. So in essence, they've been delayed a whole year
Mhm.
of that option. So if there were any way to make an exception, that they
We
might
can-
be able to file that.
Yeah, we can reach out to Carmen and see what she says. I don't know what the answer will be, but that's something we can definitely do.
Okay.
And I can work with you directly to do that. Yeah. So, all right. Any new business? All right. Well, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion passes.